Boom, ladies and gentlemen, digital marketing. It is an absolute must. If you're in business and you don't have anything going on, you're invisible and you're losing money. So today's episode is all about how to take advantage of this digital age. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Buzz. To a business owner or entrepreneur struggling to navigate the complexities of establishing a strong online presence, in today's digital landscape, having a well-designed website and effective digital marketing strategies are crucial for success. Our guest is a renowned expert in web design and digital marketing, and his agency has helped numerous businesses unleash their online potential. So get ready to learn how to overcome the challenges of building an effective online presence and discover the secrets to standing out in this digital crowd. Now let's welcome to the show our digital titan, Mr. Ryan Sherrer. All right, Ryan, we can get this party started, man. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. That is a crazy good intro, my friend. That kind of sets a tone, doesn't it?
It does, man. Look, at the end of the day, we're here to have some fun. And in my opinion, digital marketing is a way to have some fun. I work out every day, and this morning I saw this little cute cartoon video, but it had like this rock beat. You know, all it was saying was get up and get moving, get up and get moving. And the concept of how you create things digitally online, the creativity can be vast, and it's the difference between a boring post and something that gets shared and over again. So I'm going to ask you, man, what brought you into this digital marketing space?
That is a long, weird story, but I'll shorten it as much as possible. I was a stand-up comedian back in the day, and I wasn't very good at it, by the way. That's why I'm not one anymore. But I was good at marketing back in like 2010 or whatever. I would make my flyers, I'd make my posters, I'd get on social media, I'd buy Google ads. I would do everything possible to promote my shows and pack my shows out. Now the shows weren't any good, trust me, I promise. But I realized I was good at marketing, and then I started doing some podcasting and stuff like that, and I was selling marketing, and I figured out if I didn't hire people to do it, I could take more of the money. So therefore, what I started doing was started investing in programs and learning how to do digital marketing, content creation, stuff like that. And it just kind of took off and grew from there. So out of a failure became my path into digital marketing. So
I think that's just life, man. Like we are going to hit road bumps all the way across, and those road bumps are not really distractions. They're giving you an idea of what you want to do and what you don't want to do in life, and what you're good at and what you're going to persevere on, and what you're going to be like, nope, I tried it and that wasn't for me, on to the next. All right, let's talk about businesses themselves. So you started marketing some businesses, started picking up clients here and there, helping them create an online presence. What is the struggle that you feel companies have? Because I think, when I first started my first business, it was create flyers, throw them in the penny saver, direct mail, this old thing called the yellow pages. That's how we kind of did our advertising early in the day. But things have drastically changed. What's the biggest hurdle you see when you talk to a client that says they want to market, they just don't quite understand what it is or what they're even doing in their company?
It comes back to just doing it. It comes back to absolutely everybody gets overwhelmed. Like you were talking about in old days, we had flyers and this stuff, and a lot of new businesses, especially not to segregate an audience here, but especially in 35 and up audience, they don't understand it. So they meet with you and you're telling them, oh, I got analytics and I can put it here and I can do that. And they just get overwhelmed and they don't do it. It's kind of like an intro, get up and get moving. That is the biggest struggle, I would say, for people. You don't have to perfect your digital marketing presence the first day. You have to find a good starting point and start that journey. So just get started with it. Just it's nervous and it's uncomfortable, but I promise you that saying that Buddhist, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. It's people meet and they want to do it, and they can't get over the anxiety of just pulling that trigger to get into that market and putting themselves out there.
Just do it. Like Nike, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Just do it. All right, let me ask you this, man, because I can't believe I'm even going to ask this, but it's 2023, and when somebody starts a business, they still don't have a website. Like,
No.
What's going on here, man? Like, why focus on websites? And then while you're in there, what's the difference between a website and a funnel?
Right. That's a big difference. The first one is, I think people look at social media or ads or advertising and don't think they need a website, but they don't understand your website is kind of like your pivot point for all of this. If you're, not to jump the gun, but if you're doing SEO advertising, or you're wanting that search advertising, or you're wanting there, Google and other search engines look to make sure you have a website, and it's a good website before they start really pumping you up in there. Can you get good without websites? Yes, but it's a lot of work that you don't want to do. So get a good website, get it back in. And what's the difference between a website and a funnel? It's pretty simple. A website is, if you just want to throw your shingle out there on the interwebs and it say, hey, come to my place, that's great. But if you don't have calls to actions, if you don't have ways to talk to people, to collect those leads, to pull that information, then that's all you have, is you have a picture on the internet. So that's the biggest difference, I guess, to answer your question, between a website and a funnel.
I always felt like a website is almost like, this is everything we do. This is all the information that we have on ourselves. This is what we offer. Our products, our services are about us, who our history is. Whereas a funnel is very direct. There's one thing that I want you to do on this landing page when you land here, and it's either fill out a form or click the button. One simple action versus a bunch of stuff. Now, they both have their pros and cons. What's the pro to having a website, especially when you kind of mentioned the SEO stuff, versus developing single landing pages? What's the advantage for one over the other?
So a website, it's kind of like a digital storefront. It is your personality. It is you. Think about your grandma's house and how outdated and how the green shag carpet and the paneling and stuff. There's a certain vibe to that, right? So your website is the same thing. Your website is your vibe. They can come in and you can literally, talking to the businesses out there, be in a one-room office that you're renting and make yourself look like an empire. And that is your vibe. That is what a website is. That is your vibe. And you want to have it to be a good vibe. The difference of a landing page, the landing page is your facade of your storefront. It's kind of like saying, come on in, come see me. Here's what we do. It's a little snippet, same vibe, with some info, looking to get that interaction, looking to get those people either through the door, to fill out that form, to come interact, to come see more. And it's all based on collecting that info.
So let's talk about what makes a good one and a bad one, right? Because obviously you've seen some great websites that have great conversion rates. And then there's some that just kind of, like you mentioned, it might be your personality. It's just not being projected very well online or doing much things to you. So what are some of those key elements that make a website design both visually appealing, but also user friendly? And how does having those features like contribute to conversion or even customer engagement?
Well, first off is you want to make everything easy to find. Let's compare it back to a storefront again. You're not going to put the lobby in the back of the building. You're not going to put, so when you go to a website and you can't find your way around it, that is the biggest mistake I see people make. They want a big flashy opening or a big flashy whatever, or it's just stagnant. One of the two. I see both on both extremes or whatever. And what you need to do is you need to make sure that people can just get around the place. That's first and foremost. Point number one is people, when they come to a website, they're either checking you out, or more importantly, they're shopping or interacting. So they're wanting to get to the thing that they're wanting to get to. And if they can't find it, they'll get frustrated and find somebody that can take them to that. Design is number two. Out of just maneuverability, design is number two. Going back to the grandma's house analogy, her house was pretty cool for about 30 years. right? But digital moves so quickly, new trends come so quickly that you need to make sure that your house, your new cutting edge website doesn't look like grandma's house. And those are usually every 2 to 5 years. You're going to want to refresh your website, probably sooner if you're doing something that revolves more entertainment, high end advertising, stuff like that. You're gonna want that website to keep up with the thing. So design number two. Number three is no matter how much you want to design it, if your clientele is 20-year-olds, don't make it look, you have to target to that. So when you're doing your design, make sure that you go out and find your demographic and design it for your demographic. Number one, first and foremost, just design it to your demographic and use good pictures, use good quality content and good quality graphics. You may say, hey, this looks decent, but think about how somebody else appears and looks at your website, and make sure that, there's a theory, not take a sideshow. There's a theory about you will go broke trying to be cheap. You are on a race to zero. If you've got a cousin that can do graphics and they can just do them better than you, don't use him. Go find somebody professional. Just because somebody does better than you doesn't mean they're professional. When you want a professional look, buy professional. Come out of pocket a little bit for that. There's a lot of ways to do that, but make sure that your website is pointed towards the demographic that you were looking at. Go ahead.
So on that note, there's certain things that a website can help you as far as getting traffic is concerned. This is where having good SEO comes into play. This is where creating some content that has backlinks, videos, and stuff like that drive traffic. What are some things that they should focus in on while they're creating this page that is user friendly, that has great photos on it, so that they can start building that traction? So when somebody Googles something that they're looking for, they're the ones that tend to come up.
Yes. One is when you're building it on the back end, meta tags, tagging, making sure that you're using the same keywords, making sure that you are using great descriptors of the product, because that's what Google and other search engines pull to find that. To find that. So in your design, make sure that your content, your written content, your back end content, all has those same things on there. Name your pages while you're building the website as well. Those will get those in as well, and make sure you have your call to actions and your popular items and your popular things on the front page, what we call above the fold, meaning when you log in on either mobile or laptop, it's that is on the first part of your popular stuff is on the first part of that. So are your calls to actions, your addresses, your contact info, all of that stuff.
Above the fold, all that stuff. I always feel it's funny when you have a new business owner that gets into, they're like, I got to do some marketing. So they start getting into space, and then they hear terminology and things like SEO, above the fold, CTRs. And like all of a sudden, like you said, they start to get overwhelmed with a lot of this stuff. And not to mention that the digital landscape is always changing. I was like, I needed a website. Now somebody's telling me I need a funnel. Like they start losing their hair, right? How are you making it easier? Like when a customer comes to you and they're looking for help me market my customers, help me market my business, what's that process like working with you so that they don't feel that overwhelming feeling, so that they understand that, yeah, I'm going to learn this stuff, but it's not going to be a fire hose to my face?
We usually break it down into bite-sized chunks. I think one of the ways that you can help your customers when you market or those people are you just break it down to understandable terms. Kind of going back to above the fold. It's a paper term. If you were ever sold paper term, everything that's in New York Times, man, everything that's important is above that fold. So you try to cross that terminology and you try to break it down into small bite-sized chunks. And for me, when I'm talking to younger people and younger demographics, they get it. I don't have much. There's not a whole lot in there, but when we're getting into the other demographics, that digital marketing was something that was novel in the 90s, and they don't, and they're not getting to it. It's just go really slow. CTR, click-through rate, stuff like that. Make sure that you create an air of asking questions and letting them ask questions, because it's very easy to go in there when you're buying anything, a car, digital marketing, whatever, to have the salesman throw out a bunch of big talking points and everything at you and get lost. So just go slow. Make sure the customer's comfortable in the conversation.
Sometimes business owners feel like they have to be front and center when it comes to promoting their business, whether it's creating stuff on social media, creating content on a regular basis, which is definitely something that we both help our clients do, but that comfort level isn't always there. So
No.
how do you kind of help different entrepreneurs hit various channels, different tactics? How do you help them kind of determine the strategy that's going to best hit their target audience in the most effective way?
Actually, just lots of conversation. It, it goes back to when you're in any sort of sales, and it doesn't make a difference if it's digital marketing. You have to find what they're having trouble with, what they want to encounter, who their customer is. And the more that we talk to our customers and clients, the better understanding we get of who they are, what they are. If you're an entrepreneur, your business is part of you. You are the business. You make the decisions. You control that business. You run that business. And sometimes it takes 4 or 5 meetings to get somebody comfortable enough for us to actually understand what they're wanting. Marketing shouldn't be one of those, and it can be, but it shouldn't be one of those turnkey products. This is somebody's life, and this is somebody's business that we are taking into our hands, and there's a lot of bad marketing out there. So how we make them comfortable is we just talk to them a lot. Have a lot of open communication, gain that trust, pull through that. And once they get comfortable, because they might come to us and say, hey, we want a website or we want this one particular thing. And we just keep talking to them, making them comfortable, show we know what we're doing, show that we're not the bad marketing that's prevalent out there. And we just keep going until they get to a spot of comfortability to where they start extending products and extending their services with us. And we become that expert, because anybody can slap an expert under their name on a show and be an expert, but it really just takes it takes a little bit of that digging in and conversations to get to that point.
What about the whole idea of return on investment, right? And I always feel like when you're not talking ads, paid ads anyways, it's kind of hard to monetize that ROI for especially when a company's early on starting to get things just rolling. SEO takes a while for it to gain traction, for you to have some of the organic traction that you're looking for. You could push with paid ads and really drive traffic on early on and get that conversion that you're looking for. But like you said, you're sitting down, you're talking to the client. They might have that need for cash flow up front to make those sales up front and kind of working on the branding and marketing on the back end. How do you kind of describe that ROI conversation when an entrepreneur's early on and maybe they don't understand that yet?
That's actually, we kind of flip the script a little bit. That's one of the first conversations we have. In like the very first is, what's your budget? And we set expectations. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, and kind of the same problem came to me and said, hey, I want to get started. I want to go. And it's like, if you're looking for SEO, you're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 months, slow rise. If you have none, we can pop you a little bit in the beginning and it come up. If you're kind of back up here, it depends on the product. If you have a trinket that you're selling, or a product or a physical thing that you're selling, we can get that rolling pretty quick. That's just a paid ad. We blast it out. We put it in front of people. If your brand awareness, if their goal is brand awareness, you just have to set that expectation up front that, how many years of college and did Michael Jordan go through before anybody knew who he was? Yeah. How long was Nike around before Prefontaine made him popular? How long was all these things going on? So your brand awareness, anybody that wants brand awareness stuff, that's just going to take a while, and that's going to take a commitment. And we want to make sure and set that expectation with budget. One of the very first questions I ask is, what is your budget? And make sure, if you look at a 6-month period, how many pieces of product do you have to sell to pay for me? And then we sit down and talk a reasonable expectation about products.
Yeah, that reasonable conversation is not always the most comfortable. I think that a lot of people have to have up front. I think this is what separates some of the good digital marketing agencies from the bad ones, because they're looking for the transaction to get somebody to come on board, versus you're looking to provide a result that both parties mutually understand. Like it's a big deal, because I feel a lot of times when I talk to customers, they're looking for customer acquisition. They may not
Yes.
understand that that's what they're looking for, because they're talking branding and they think Nike and they think Amazon, but they're looking for customer acquisition, and that conversation is what takes the pace of what's going to end up happening. So let's talk a little bit about traffic. How does social media play into having a good performing funnel or having a good performing website?
Social media is very important. Like it's one of the easiest, quickest ways to get people out there, but it also is dependent on the following you cultivate. I mean, the marketing company and digital marketing can help you cultivate a following as well. Don't get me wrong about that, but that is dependent on your following. I always tell people with social media, it's such a personal gig. It's such a personal thing to get traction. You have to have some sort of personality attached to it. We are bombarded with so many advertisements, so many come buy this, come do that, come see this, without that bit of personality in there. And sometimes that's hard for a marketing agency to capture, is that personality of that you can do on your own. Marketing agencies can elevate your social media. They can build you a brand. They can build you ads. But that void of personality and that personal touch from the client themselves, I don't see a whole lot of social media be that successful. Now, if they're involved and they push into it and we can actually partner on that, I see it becoming very important. And that's where it becomes one of the biggest things is go write blogs. Your blogs on your website, make sure everything's shared out, and you can share those blogs, those posts, those pages into social media. They look great. You can get your interaction and you can cross your following with that. But it does take that partnership and the content.
Any tips or tricks to help kind of make the content a little bit more engaging? Stuff that you might see that works really well, or maybe stuff that kind of has been trendy in the past and you think that might come back?
It hardly ever comes back. Number one, that's why they're trends, right? Trends are trends. They come and they go. And if you have a little forethought, you can catch that trend on that wave, but know when to jump off that wave as well. As personality, and this is my personal opinion, personality is going to make social media and make that content engaging and fire. Here's an extreme. Jerry Springer show was popular. It wasn't for the enlightening things that we did. It was because it had a personality that, like a car wreck, that you couldn't look away from. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want you advertising like Jerry Springer. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you look at celebrities, if you look at advertising campaigns, if you look at everything, they have a personality. And they do that personality. Coke is not just a soft drink. Coke is a feeling. Coke is a vibe. That content has to recreate some sort of vibe. If you don't feel anything when you see that content is not worth it. If you feel I want to buy that, if you feel I want to do that, if you feel I want to see that. So try to elicit some sort of feeling with your social media content.
And I think this is where a lot of the confusion kind of comes into play, because on the one hand, you're right, creating stuff that you feel is going to resonate with your audience. And then you're going to start to see a little bit more success. But on the other hand, we got to be able to measure it, some KPIs, yes, some key metrics on evaluating the success of any campaign that we put out there. And I feel there are many businesses that struggle to measure even the effectiveness of the posts that they make, much less the digital marketing efforts that they're making. So how do you help them track and analyze the metrics so that the content that they're making, the websites that they're building, the blogs that they're putting out, they're more data driven when it comes to what they're doing versus just kind of hopes and feels that what they're feeling is resonating with their audience?
That's basic. That's just your basic analytics, and you put marker points in that, and you put those markers in the changes. That once again, you find a good starting point. You sit down with the client, you get there, you get your website built, you get your marketing campaign go, and you put a pin in that, and you look at your metrics. And we know from being in the business what a normal rise and fall is, and stuff like that. And then when you go to releasing new content, you go to releasing other content, very transparent. You can look at a piece of content. Let's say the business owner put his face on that, and then it got 50% more like shares or 50% more engagement than just kind of like a tile ad that says, hey, come to my business. And you see that over a month or two, you're like, hey, put your face on things. That seems to resonate. We look and we make strategic changes in content, and then we gauge and marker that content, and we're consistent about when we post, we're consistent about what we do. So we know the changes that we make in the content are the things that make that metric go up and down. Unlike a billboard, newspaper, radio, they all have their place. But digital marketing has that, like you said, it's got analytics where you can just put a pin in it and say, I changed this on this date and my advertising got better or worse. And then you follow that trend and you just keep rolling that out. The analytics is what makes data or digital marketing kind of king right now, is because we can track all fluctuations for whatever reason. And the more data we can get on that, the more we can analyze that down.
Small businesses are always strapped for cash. They're bootstrapping almost all the time. And I know earlier on you said the first thing you kind of sit down with somebody and say, what's your budget like?
Yeah.
Some people that are getting started don't have much of a budget at all. So to get them to the position where they can work with an agency like you, what are some of those cost-effective things that they can do as far as their digital marketing is concerned to maybe help them drive some traffic, get some of that business so they're in a position to work with a company to really accelerate their growth?
One of the biggest ones, since we're going to go back, social media is free. It's one of those things that you don't have to pay, or the entry point to paying for those ads are pretty low to boost things content. I always tell clients that marketing is a sacrifice of time or money. It might be, just to set an expectation, good content, it might be monetarily cheap, but it's going to take some time. Don't rush through it. If all you have to give your marketing campaign is time, give it the time necessary to make it good, and give it the time necessary to make that engaging content. We all hold phones in our hands. We all have good cameras now. We all have buddies that'll hold the phone and do whatever. There's tons of documentation out there on how to use programs like Canva and other stuff like that. You're going to have to invest that time for good content. Don't make bad content. Bad content will hurt you. So if you are on a budget and you don't have the money to hire an agency, YouTube is free. All of those is free. Watch shows like this one. Invest some time in that marketing. And then once you get a pretty good grasp on it, just make sure that you do the best content that you can do. That doesn't cost anything, but it does cost that dedication of time. Cheap marketing, I'm going to say it, but cheap marketing shows a cheap product or a cheap theory. So you make sure it doesn't look cheap and invest that time into it.
All right, who are you looking for? I mean, obviously, we want that small entrepreneur to get to a point where they can hire a team to come help them really take advantage, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, there's a steep learning curve and you need to learn some of it. So at the very least, you can have a conversation with a marketing agency and understand the lingo and what it is that you want as far as your goals for your marketing campaigns. So when people do reach out to work with you, who is this ideal client that you're looking to reach?
For an agency, it's somebody that is ready to be in digital marketing. That one of our biggest things is hire a professional that we are. Do your homework when it comes down to who you want for a marketing agency and you approach us. What we're looking for is businesses that are established, businesses that are ready to move to the next level and have some investment to make on those. When you get a marketing agency, if you only invest a couple $300 in a marketing plan, you're going to get a $200 or $300 marketing plan. And that's almost like, it's not enough to get started. Make sure that you have money up front, money to invest. And when we're looking in customers, we work at Titan Digital. We work with hardware stores, insurance agents, any business. We do custom websites for every business you could imagine across the board. And what we're looking for is just people ready to take that next step and to do that, or establish businesses that are ready to have a good competitive edge in their industry. And we are nationwide. There's nowhere that we can't work. So
that's the beauty of the internet today. All right. Well, last thing, you're literally here talking about all these great ways that people can kind of grow their businesses on their own, the great things that you do as far as helping them build websites, build that SEO, measure a lot of the traction that you're getting, the traffic that's coming in. But if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
They can reach out to me at ryan@titandigital.com. And I'm willing to talk, answer any questions. I like to talk. That's why I do these things. Getting me to shut up's the trick. So if you have any questions whatsoever, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to long form some of the answers I got in here. I know I can go down rabbit trails and stuff like that. That's what makes me the creative guy that I am. But if you want to have serious talks about digital marketing, getting your business seen and heard, just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to sit down and talk.
All right, man. 30 minutes flies by as it always does on every episode. I have one selfish question.
Yes.
At the beginning, I told you we were going to create a 30-minute episode where we can chop it down and create short clips for social media. What
Absolutely.
was your experience like creating content with the Business Bros today?
Oh, it was great, man. It's one of the more professional things that I've done in a while, man. You guys are you guys are on it. The whole experience has been amazing, and I can't wait to hear from you guys again.
Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, look, it's the digital age. It's here. Whether you like it or not, you might not like to be on social media. I get it. You might not like to build websites. I totally understand. But if you're in business, these are necessities, and you don't have to go at it alone. If you know your business is ready to go to that next level, make sure you stop by the website, titandigital.com, or send Ryan an email, ryan@titandigital.com, and stop being invisible. Start making yourself visible so that people know who you are, build that credibility, and work your way into profitability. That's where it's at. Ryan, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out. It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.com.